Yes, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalam, great, good, very good. So, inshallah, yeah. Can we start if everything is fine with you?
Yeah, but just give me a moment. I'm trying to.
Sure, I'll introduce you till you finish everything.
Yeah.
Most of you, dear ladies and gentlemen, know Mr. Yahya very well. Mr. Yahya is the current assistant director of the Academic Writing Center. He is an English language instructor in the English Language Institute at King Abdulaziz University. He got his master's degree in curriculum and instructions and literacy development. His specialization is in TESOL. Mr. Yahya is interested in research topics related to cognitive development in the first language and its role in second language learning, instructed second language acquisition, and the development of second language writing, especially English for academic writing. Mr. Yahya has been working for a couple of years at the Academic Writing Center, and he presented four more excellent workshops about essay writing, organization and planning, coherence and cohesion, and unity of paragraph and essay writing. If you are ready, Mr. Yahya, I don't want to take more or
Yes.
much of your
Thank,
time.
thank you
You
so much,
can start.
brother Dr. Kamal. I appreciate your compliment and your introduction. I'm just having a problem here. When I put my screen on the display mode, I cannot go back to to Blackboard. So I think I need to
Uh-huh.
adjust a little bit here.
Take your time.
Yeah.
You're
Just
an expert in Blackboard.
yeah. I don't know exactly what. It's not working properly. So I will just put it on this mode. So is my voice clear now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, wonderful.
To
So
me, to me, yes.
thank you so much, everyone, for joining us in this workshop. This is one of the most important topics that I am really interested in presenting, and it is going to help a lot of students, especially in the health track, the science track. They will understand a lot about sentence types and how to construct sentence types in academic writing. So first of all, we will look at some of the objectives of our workshop. So here we have the types of sentences, using linking words within sentences, connecting sentences together in academic writing, transition signals between sentences, reviewing common mistakes, and finally, I'll give you some activities so you can demonstrate your learning. Okay, so basically we have 4 types of sentences in academic writing. But let's first start to know what a sentence is. So a sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. A complete thought, which means it gives a complete meaning. So your sentence, if it doesn't give a complete meaning, a meaningful sentence, so then you have to rework on it again. So the first type is the simple sentence. And the second, we have compound sentence. And then complex sentence. And finally, we have either, we can call it compound, complex. So it's a kind of a combination between compound sentences and complex sentences. Or we can shift it the other way by saying complex compound sentences. Okay. So the first type is simple sentences. A simple sentence here has only one clause. Okay, so we need to understand what a clause is. Okay, so this is the basic or the smallest unit in a sentence. Okay, which is mostly give us a meaning. So in order to give a meaning, it is basically a main clause, or we call it an independent clause. When we say independent here, it stands alone as a small unit with a meaning. The second here, we have a clause, so is a group of words, it's the same. So it could be two words, no less than two words, which is a subject and a verb. So these are some examples of simple sentences. So the first here, we have two words. So this is a subject and this is a verb. She runs. So when I say she runs, so this basically is a sentence. It gives me a meaning. So someone is running. Okay, she runs. So this is a clause. Okay. The second one here we have she started the meeting. So here we have three parts in the sentence. We have a subject, a verb, and an object. Also we have she made me a pie. So look here, we have this object, but it is split into two halves. One of them is called the indirect object. Okay, she made me. So this is not directly stated. And the direct object, which is a pie. Okay, so she made a pie. She made me a pie. Okay, or we can say she made a pie for me. So here it became a direct object at the beginning. Okay, and the second one we call it a prepositional phrase. And a prepositional phrase here, okay, is consisting of a preposition plus either a pronoun or a noun. Okay, and in this case we have an object pronoun. I'm afraid that I cannot see your chat when I'm on this mode, so I'm trying to log in from another PC so I can interact with you. Just give me a moment on that. Okay, so the last one here we have they made him happy. Okay, they made him happy. And here also we have an indirect object, but it is attached with an adjective, which we call an object complement. Okay, so all these are examples of simple sentences. When we say simple, this doesn't mean that this sentence should be short, but it has some kind of techniques that we will understand in the following slides. Okay, so let's look at these clauses. So here we have two types of clauses. Okay, the first one we call an independent clause, and the second we have a dependent clause. Okay, as we have mentioned earlier, that an independent clause, okay, which I'm going to use IC henceforth along my slides, it will be described as IC, independent clause, or we can call it a main clause if you wish. It has a subject and a verb. Okay, so this is the smallest unit in a sentence that gives me a meaning. Okay, the second one we have a dependent clause. A dependent clause, I will be describing it as a DC. Okay, henceforth, which is not a complete sentence. So when we say a dependent, so this depends on something else to complete its meaning. Okay, and as you can see here in this example, when I visited my friend, his son was screaming. So I have two parts here. The first part.
Excuse me, brother Yahya.
Yes.
The presentation is stuck on the first page. We can't see the sentences.
Oh,
It's not moving. Yeah.
really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let me just. I have no idea what's going on, but
Now we can see the sentences.
yeah. I'm having a problem when I put it on the display mode. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Things, So I think I'll make it like this. Okay, until I came into the activities. So the activities is kind of like an interactive screen.
Uh-huh.
So
Yeah.
students will see the questions, and on the second, once I click the the arrow, it will
Hmm.
give the answers. So
Great.
is it fine to go this? Is it clear?
Now
Should
we
I
can see it, and Sister
I
Basma
try to
suggests
expand
to try the reading mode. It could be better.
reading mode? Okay,
Yeah.
this
Ah,
one.
mashallah. This is excellent.
Excellent. Thanks so much. You saved the world. Miss Besma, I appreciate it. Okay, so now it's wonderful. Now I can see the chat and I can see everything. Okay, so here we say when I visited my friend, comma, his son was screaming. So when we try to analyze this sentence, the first one, the dependent clause, okay, when I visited my friend, if I look at it, okay, independently, it doesn't give me a meaning when I visited my friend. So what? Okay, but when we look at the second part, it gives a full meaning. His son was screaming. So putting two parts together, okay, it gives a full thought, a complete thought. Let's move to the next slide. So here, let's look at the compound sentences. So we are done with the simple sentences, and now we have the compound sentences. So a compound, as you can see from the word, it means two things, double, okay? We have two things. So a compound sentence has two or more independent clauses. So it's a must. So this is a necessity that it should be an independent clause. Those two or three parts, okay? So no dependent clauses are acceptable if you want to make or form a compound sentence. Those dependent clauses will be discussed in another type of sentences, okay? Clauses are connected by a comma followed by a coordinating conjunction. So what are these coordinating conjunctions? Okay, those that we use to connect two parts together. We have for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and, so. And if you can see these acronyms or symbols, they represent those 7 words. So we can learn it. It's easier for memorization, you know. So we can say fanboys. When I say fanboys, I know that each letter stands for the beginning of each of those words. Okay, and each of those words have a meaning and have a function. We are not using it, you know, inadvertently. So it should be used based on a function. So let's look at these examples. So I have put 7 examples where each one is given in a sentence, and after that I gave you the function. Why do I use certain words? Okay, so the first one, I started my classes on time. This is an independent clause. Okay, but so there's a comma here, but I arrived late, and this is also another independent clause. So I use but here to make an opposite. So both parts, okay, are contrasting each other. I started my classes on time. This is a positive, okay, statement. But the negative statement is I arrived late. The second one, the sun was shining. I have to use a comma here. And everyone was happy. So I use and here to introduce similar or equal ideas. So an equal ideas to the first one. Okay, the sun was shining, everyone was happy. So these are both positive statements, positive ideas. Japanese people live longer than other nationalities. although I disagree with this statement, but for they eat healthy. So if someone eats healthier, this kind of try to give someone, good health so he can be free of diseases or problems, which makes him live longer. So I use for here to introduce a reason why Japanese people live longer than other nationalities, for they eat healthy. Okay, there is another word. Can you think what of the word that we can use to give a reason? Can you put it in the chat box? A similar one that we use to give reasons. Exactly, yes. Due to, yes, we can use it, but it's not in this context. I have to rearrange my words so I can use due to properly. Due to cannot be used, by the way, interchangeably with because. I cannot use it interchangeably. I have to make some editing to my sentences. I might say due to the fact that they eat healthy. Okay, due to the fact that they eat healthy. Number 4 here we have, I think they here should be, they do not eat a lot of meat, nor do they eat many dairy products. So the word nor here, exactly. Yes, I agree with you. Okay, we do not use a comma before due to. Okay, so nor here means it means and not. So as if I'm using and not. Okay, so it gives me a negative, okay, or I would say equal idea. So basically, if you look at this part that comes after nor, it's a kind of a question. We formed the sentence as if it is a question. So do they eat many dairy products? Do you see how it is written? They do not eat a lot of meat, nor do they eat many dairy products. But basically, we do not put a question mark here. Okay, but the wording of the sentence, okay, acts as a question, okay, sentence. So it means that they don't do this and they don't do this also. Exactly. It's not like comparing. I would say both are negative things. They don't do both things, okay? And not. If you can use and not instead of nor, it becomes more, clear, or much more clear. The next one we have people should limit the amount of fat in their diet, or they might get risk of heart disease. So or here, okay, as you can see, it gives me an alternative possibility. Okay, neither is another one. Yes, neither nor can be used exactly to act the same way. Neither they eat a lot of meat, nor do they eat many dairy products. Yep. So here we can introduce an alternative possibility. Okay. So either or. Also either or. Either I do something or something else. Okay. يكون فيه ايش خيارات. يكون فيه خيارات عندنا هنا. So two possibilities. Next we have bad at math. So this is a negative, okay, statement. Yet my parents want me to study engineering. Sometimes people mix between the use of yet with however and but. It acts as the same thing, but when I use yet, I'm introducing a surprising negative statement. Okay, so I'm bad at math. This is a negative thing. My parents want me to study engineering. This is a positive thing. This is something surprising. How they want me to study engineering if I'm bad at math? You see how it works? Okay, but if I say but my parents want me, yet here is much more appropriate. Okay, the last one here, stress can reduce longevity. Okay, longevity means living longer life. So stress can reduce longevity, so try to avoid stress. So here is my linking word. Okay, try to avoid stress if you wish to live longer. So I use so here to introduce expected results. I'm expecting something to happen if something happened initially. Okay, is it clear, guys? Do you have any questions on this part? Wonderful, super. All right, let's move to the next part here. So complex sentences. Now we are moving from compound to complex. So making our sentences more complex, longer sometimes, okay? Adding more details. Uh, although, where is although? To soon, you mean using although instead of yet? Is that your question, Mr. Al-Bugami or Mr. Al-Bugami? I'm bad at math, although my parents want me to study engineering. I would say yes. It gives me the same meaning. It gives me the same thing. Although my parents want me to study engineering, I'm bad at math. Although my parents, I don't think so. No, although here is not. It doesn't give me the same meaning as yet. I might use but it will be a less, it wouldn't convey the right message that I'm trying to say. Okay, my parents want me to study engineering, although I'm bad at math. This one is much better. Yes, Mina, excellent, wonderful. So if you put it this way, it would be much appropriate. Yes, exactly. Sometimes we need to play with the sentences, with the parts, if we want to convey the right message. It depends on what you are trying to convey. ايش الرسالة اللي انت تبغى توصلها, okay? So a complex sentence must have one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. Okay? So it should have one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. All right? And we will see that in the following examples. One idea is generally more important than the other. When I'm trying to present a string of ideas connected together in one sentence, okay, I'm doing so to tell the listener or the reader that one part in my sentence is more important than the other. Okay, and the way you order your ideas in a sentence also describes this fact. Which one comes first, which one comes next. Okay, this is how we tell someone that which one is the most important. The dependent clause must start with a subordinating conjunction. So those subordinating conjunctions are a lot, and examples of that we have if, so, that, while, when, after, before, although, and because. Okay, so the dependent clause must start with a subordinating conjunction. Okay, finally, dependent clauses. We have three types of those dependent clauses in complex sentences. It could be adverb clauses, okay, or we call them adverbial clauses, adjective clauses, and noun clauses. Okay, so it depends on the type of subordinated conjunction Okay, which one I'm going to use? Is it an adverb or an adjective or something that describes a noun? Let's look at some examples. The first one here we have, when I moved to Jeddah, so this is a dependent clause. It's not a full sentence. It doesn't give a full meaning or a complete thought on its own. So I have to put something else to make it meaningful. Comma, after I got a new job. Also, this is another dependent clause. Okay, this is another dependent clause. I think attendance is taken automatically from Blackboard. So we go back to Blackboard to see who attended the session. So I think it's, isn't it Dr. Kamal? I think it's automatically. So
Uh,
when I,
Actually, after completing the evaluation form correctly,
okay,
then
okay,
you are present and you get the certificate, both. So
good. So you just open that link,
at
fill
the
in
end of
info,
the issue, yeah.
fill it, yeah, okay, good. So after I got a new job, this is another dependent clause. And finally, I had to spend a month to discover the whole city. This is an independent clause. This gives me a full thought. And those added extra information, added extra ideas. Okay, so when I moved to Jeddah, after I got a new job, what happened? I had to spend a month to discover the whole city. So I used two conjunctions here, two dependent clauses, and I put them together with an independent clause. Why? To make my sentence more meaningful. Who can tell me? I need those smart students here. What is the most important part in this sentence? If you are the listener and I'm the speaker, what part I'm trying to convey, the most important one I'm trying to convey? Is it the first, the second, or the third? Part three. Do you agree with him? Yeah. Do you agree with that it's part three? What about those first parts? Why did I use them? Exactly. It's part three. The most important thing is that I had to spend a month to discover the whole city because this is something new to me. But here I introduced those two parts. Why? To tell someone about a scenario, about events, a sequence of events. So something happened before another, okay? So when I moved to Jeddah, this is the first. Is it the first thing or after I got a new job? No. The second one is the first. Then comes the first. Okay, when I look at events, I got a job. I moved to Jeddah. I had to spend a month to discover the whole city. So look how important it is to use the right and the exact subordinating conjunction here. Okay, I cannot say before here. Otherwise, the listener will understand it differently. The main idea, you mean the important message that I'm trying to convey? It's this one, the last one. The last part is the most important thing, is that Jeddah is something new to me, so it took me a lot of time to discover the whole place. And I'm telling you this because I did something before. Why I came to Jeddah and when. Okay, so these answers questions about why and when. The second one here, he went to see a doctor because he was sick. Okay, so this is very short, as you can see. It's a short sentence. Some students might say, oh, this is a simple sentence. It couldn't be a complex. There are no commas, nothing at all. But it is a complex sentence. Why? Because I used, if we go back to the rule here, must have one independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. So here I have, he went to see a doctor. This is an independent clause. And this is one dependent clause. So it achieved the rule. It met the rule of complex sentences. Okay, so long here doesn't mean complex. Always bear that in mind. Okay, the last sentence here, we can say, or because he was sick. So the same sentence, but I'm trying to rehearse it, to reverse it the other way by putting the dependent clause beginning at the beginning. So because he was sick, here I must put a comma. When I use the conjunction at the beginning, it is very important to put the comma after the first part. He went to see a doctor. Okay, because he was sick, he went to see a doctor. Is there a difference between those two sentences if I use it this way or that way? What do you think? I'm talking here in meaning. There is no difference. Okay, no difference, but it's kind of changing the style of your writing. Instead of using one style all the time, if you are writing, for example, a paragraph or an essay, changing your style makes your writing more interesting. Okay, you are talking about essay. Okay, the main idea, it depends on your topic, what you are going to talk about. A topic sentence is the first sentence in a paragraph, okay, that discusses what the theme of your writing is. What is it about? For example, if I'm talking about the weather in Jeddah during the winter, okay, I would say, if I'm talking about the weather in general in Jeddah, and my paragraph should start like this. Let me just type it in the chat box. I'll just show you very quickly how a topic sentence is constructed. So this is a sentence here. The weather in Jeddah is wonderful during the winter season. Okay, so here you will understand that if you read this sentence at the beginning of my paragraph, you will understand that the topic is the weather in Jeddah. And my controlling idea, what I'm going to discuss, is that weather in the winter season. I'm not going to talk about the weather in Jeddah in the summer season, but I will make it specifically guided to the winter season. Okay? Excellent. Okay, so compound complex sentences. So once we learned the compound sentences and the complex sentences, now I have an idea what a compound complex sentence is. Okay, so it's a kind of a combination between both of them. When I combine both of them, I will end up with a compound complex sentence. Okay, so here, okay, where is it? What is going on here? I think there is a problem with this slide. It doesn't specifically show the compound complex. Just give me a moment. Okay, I'll just share with you another slide here, or just edit it. All right. Now, okay, here we go. Sorry for this inconvenience. I think I had two different slides here, and okay, so a compound complex sentence has at least three clauses. Two are always independent, and at least one dependent. Okay, so at least three. So not two, three. Two are always independent, so I must have at least two independent and at least one dependent. And both of those parts are joined by a conjunction. Okay, so let's look at these examples. After I graduated from college, this is a dependent clause. I attached after as a conjunction with this, comma, I wanted to travel. Independent clause, comma, but I had to go to work immediately. This is another independent clause. Okay, so but here doesn't act as a conjunction like after. Do you remember but? A coordinating conjunction, not a subordinator. Subordinators are used specifically to connect complex sentences with compound sentences. So here I have a compound sentence. Okay, I wanted to travel, but I had to go to work immediately. And this is the dependent clause that I used to make my compound complex sentence. Okay, another example, I wanted to travel after I graduated from college, but I had to go to work immediately. Why? Because I had to support my family. The more longer the sentence, the more difficult it is to understand. But if we used those linking words properly, it will make it much more easier. Imagine if I remove those linking words, how the sentence would look like. I wanted to travel, comma, I graduated from college, comma, I had to go to work immediately, comma, I had to support my family. Or let's say full stop. Okay, and compare it after adding those conjunctions. It makes it much more easier to follow and to understand. So the first thing I did is I graduated from college. Then I wanted to travel. Okay, but there is a problem. I had to go to work immediately. Okay, why? Because I had to support my family. Make sense? Okay, the last one here, after I graduated from college, I moved to Riyadh while my family stayed at Jeddah. Here I used a semicolon. Since we live in different cities, we got to visit each other once every month. So this is something very long, okay? It's very complicated. If it's difficult for you, okay, to construct those compound complex sentences, go back to that rule on the previous page. Okay, where is it? Yeah, here. Okay, understand what these sentences should include and how they look like. It will make it much more easier for you. So after I graduated from college, the same, look, it's the same thing here. I moved to Riyadh, traveling, while my family stayed at Jeddah. So until here, this is a full and complete thought, a meaningful sentence. But I wanted to add something that is close or that is connected to what I just said. Since we live in different cities, we got to visit each other once every month. Okay? So here I have one dependent clause, independent clause, while my family stayed at Jeddah is a dependent clause. Here we have dependent clause, and the final one is an independent clause. So we have four parts here. Okay. Do you have any questions about complex sentences, compound complex? Any questions, guys? Feel free to ask. And by the way, we are going to upload the full presentation, inshallah, on our YouTube video as a YouTube video, okay? By the end of tonight or roughly tomorrow, you will find it there, inshallah. So you can refer back to it anytime you like. Okay, so I think you have questions here. No questions, okay. Let's move on. The DC, the dependent clause, yeah. Dependent clauses are all those clauses that are linked with the subordinated conjunction. لما يكون مرتبط بالsubordinated conjunction اللي بالأحمر هذه يعتبر dependent clause. لكن لما نطالع فيها as a single sentence, we live in different cities, this is a complete sentence. But as we attach it with since we live in different cities, then this is not a complete thought. We have to put another independent clause to make it meaningful. Okay? How to determine the IC and DC. Okay, as I mentioned before, a dependent clause cannot give me a full meaning. Okay? It doesn't give a full meaning. If I say after I graduated from college, would you understand something? Samira, would you understand if I say just after I graduated from college? It doesn't give me a meaning. Yes, it is, yeah. It is recorded and we will upload it inshallah on the YouTube channel of the Academic Writing Center. So here it doesn't give me full meaning. Okay, why? Because I linked after with it. But if I say I graduated from college, it gives me a full meaning. Make sense? Is it clear? The independent clause stands alone as a full or as a meaningful sentence. It gives me a meaning, okay, compared to dependent clause. So this gives meaning, this doesn't give a meaning. So what did we do? We linked them together to make this meaning, okay? So here I give you a practice, a sentence here. So tell me, what do we put in each blank? The proposed solution to the problem didn't work. Full stop. Blank, we attempted another one. Full stop. This solution was blank unsuccessful. So just put 1, 2, 3. So I know exactly what you are referring to. 1, for example, but 2, so 3, and so on. Just write the number of the blank. Okay, so we attempted another one. Yes, I agree with you. So we are introducing what? We are introducing huh? A consequence. What happened if this solution didn't work? We attempted another one. So we attempted another one. طبعا ممكن نستخدم كلمات ثانية غير so. What I'm going to use is who would like to give me another word that I can use instead of so? Therefore, excellent, wonderful. Therefore, followed by a comma. I should put a comma after therefore, okay? Because it's we call it, it's a conjunction, but a different conjunction that is called adverbial conjunction, okay? The next part here, this solution was blank unsuccessful. So what should I use on the second blank? As a result, yeah, I like that one. As a result, this solution was as a result might be used, yeah, Abdul Karim, on the first blank, but not on the second one. Because this is a consequence, this is the result. Therefore, so, as a result, consequently, yes. The second blank, what did you, or what do you think we should put? It's a contrasting idea, صح? It's a contrasting one. Instead of putting but, I'm having a full stop here. So it's more recommended to use that academic word, yes, however. Excellent. Yes, Abdul Karim. However, followed by a comma. This solution was what? Then unsuccessful. I can say unsuccessful, but there is something that I have to add. Even if I didn't put anything, it will convey the message correctly. So what do I add here? Yes, Rima. Excellent. Also, because I had two options, the first one didn't work, also the second one didn't work. Excellent. So here, the proposed solution to the problem didn't work, therefore we tried another one. However, the other solution was also unsuccessful. MashaAllah, you are doing an excellent job. Regardless, where should we use regardless, Abir? Where do you think we should put regardless? Also, is regardless cannot be used instead of also. I have to change the full sentence, add some words to make it appropriate. However, the other solution was no, I cannot use regardless here. Okay, regardless, no. I can use conversely, on the other hand, therefore we tried another one. However, no, however is the best one. Regardless is not a good one to use here. Or I have to change the whole sentence to make it fit. Okay. Nevertheless, yeah. Nevertheless is a good one. I can use nevertheless. Yep. A preposition of, so it can be used. Exactly. I agree with you, Dr. Muhammad. Yep. I have sometimes to play with the words, play with the sentence to fit in another word, okay? Like the one we took previously. And no, so due to, yeah, due to instead of because. So it doesn't work. I have to change something in my sentence to make it, read correctly. Another example. There is a lack of reliable data to establish a clear relationship between these variables. Blank, it has been argued that a relationship does exist. Okay, I put the comma already for you here. So what do you think comes in the blank? So share your answers in the chat box, and then I'll show you the answer. I'm not gonna correct you now. Just put whatever you like. Okay, somebody said although. Okay. Remember, when there is a comma, do you think we have to use although? Although shouldn't be used with a comma. Those subordinating conjunctions should not be used with commas. I have to use something else. However, consequently, on one hand, on the other hand, therefore, all of them are used with commas. But although doesn't, we don't use a comma with although here. In addition, moreover, it depends. Look at the second sentence, the second part. Does it add something? Are we adding something? Or what? Okay, one more minute. I'll give you one more minute. So I'll give you time to think. Then I'll show you the answer. Yet, therefore, on the other hand. Okay. The answer is nevertheless. So whoever wrote, however, nevertheless, still, nonetheless also can be used in this context. Okay, so here I'm introducing an opposing or a contrasting idea. There is lack of reliable data to establish a clear relationship between these variables. However, nevertheless, it has been argued that a relationship does exist. So a group of people said there is no relationship, but the others said there is a relationship. Okay, so here we have contrasting ideas. Yet it has been argued, yes, I can use yet. I can use yet. It has been argued that a relationship doesn't exist. But yet here we remember that it introduces a surprising idea. Is it something surprising? You have to think of it, Safiya. You have to think if it's something surprising, okay, then yet is something possible. For me, I don't think there is a surprising information here. It's just a kind of lack of knowledge, lack of data, okay? But when the other group made their work better, they found that the relationship exists. Exactly, brother Dr. Muhammad. Coordinators take commas before them, but conjunctive adverbs take commas after them. Yep. This is another way to distinguish between the use of those conjunctions. The last part here, the cost of education is rising. Many students must work part-time. I'll give you 1 minute to do those two sentences. The second one, the college campus is located in the middle of the city. Here is a semicolon, then followed by a blank, comma. It's very easy to get there by public transportation. So go ahead and type in the chat box what you think. Yep. Yes, brother Dr. Muhammad. Therefore, furthermore, for example, etc. We call them conjunctive adverbs. And basically, we use them with compound complex sentences. And sometimes with compound sentences, they can be used if we are using a semicolon. Yep. Okay, still, because, yes, as, because, yeah, I agree. Since, What about number two? The blank for number two. As a result. So remember to differentiate between the type of adjectives, the ones that needs a comma and the ones that we don't put a comma. Okay, it's very important. I mean, we could use it in different situations, but I need the right context, this specific context. Okay, let's check the answers. So the first one, although the cost of education is rising, many students must work part-time. If I used because, it's true. Okay, the first one, if I use because, it's true. Do you have another? Do you have another way to write this one, other than although? Due to the cost of education is rising? No. Many students must work part-time due to the high cost of education, due to the high rising of education, the high rising of cost of education. I have to change the whole sentence to fit due to. Nowadays, then I have to readapt my sentence. I would say, do you mean the second one nowadays or the first one? Number two, therefore, and thus. Please write the number. Is it for number one or two? For sentence one or sentence two? While number three, I don't have the number three here. I have only two sentences. Because of the cost of education is rising. No, I will just use because without because of. Because the cost of education is rising, many students must work part-time. Okay, the second one, the college campus is located in the middle of the city. Therefore, it's very easy to get there by public transportation. Therefore, so I'm introducing what here? When I say therefore, what is it? What am I trying to introduce? A result, yeah? A result, a consequence. Consequence, adding consequences. Okay? Very good. Connecting sentences with transitional signals or transition signals. There are four main types of transition signals. We have to move very quickly because we are a bit short of time. So we have additive, contrast, causal effect, and sequential. So these are the main four types of transition signals. Each type has many transition words or phrases, which we will look at in the following slides. Remember that transition signals with similar meanings are not necessarily interchangeable. يعني ما أقدر أستخدم واحدة مكان الثانية, even if they fall under the same category. Sometimes they are slightly different. Okay, like when we use yet instead of but or however, they have a little bit difference in meaning. The last thing here, it's important to understand the meaning of all the linking words you use. In order to be able to use it correctly, you have to know the meaning. What does it mean? What does it convey? What am I going to say? What will the learner, the listener or the reader understand if I use it this way? Some people might misunderstand you just because you use the wrong linking word, okay? So here, expressing addition, if I want to add information, we use these linking words to add, introduce new information, or examples. So adding, introducing new information or examples. We also use them to expand upon. Okay, I want to stretch my idea, compare with or clarify the previous text. Okay, so this is what addition or signaling words for addition really means. And this is the table. I'm not going to go through all the information here, okay, but you can get back to it at your free time. Okay, so here we have functions, why these certain signaling words are used. So adding details, expanding details, referring to previous information, comparing with previous information, and finally making clarification. And as you can see here, we have moreover, for instance, considering this result. So I might use it as a phrase, as a sequence of words. Similarly, the same thing, namely, I want to make clarification or to describe something. And these are the examples of those linking words. So we will find in front of each function a group of words that you can use, okay, in this task. Here we might use those signaling words or phrases to express contrast. Contrasting, like but, however, in contrast, conversely, on the other hand. So they always signal a contrast between two ideas. Okay, we use them to introduce information that disagrees or contrasts with the previous statement. Okay, and this table, okay, introduces the functions of contrasting ideas. Look, we have 5 functions. So don't think that using however instead of, for example, although or in any case or at least would work well. Okay, we need to understand each one and its function, so we are sure that we are conveying the right or the true message. This basically is concerned with writing specifically, because we are mostly use those words in academic writing. We rarely use them in spoken language. So we have disagreement, emphasis, concession, dismissal, and replacement. Okay, by practice you will be aware of all those words. So it's not important to memorize every single word here. At least 1 or 2 is enough. Okay, at least 1 or 2 is enough. Whereas as an alternative for although, yeah, exactly. In or as a consequence. As a consequence, so you are introducing a result here, something that happens based on a previous thing. So it's a cause-effect relationship. Yeah, what's your name? Niyama. Okay, so here I'm expressing a causal effect relationship. If something happened, another thing is possibly will take place. Okay, expressing causal effect relationships. Here we will describe, okay, some transition words that describes cause and effect. Okay, and cause effects here, some of the I've seen some of the students, they are missing okay, the use of those words. And sometimes they put the effect in place of the cause, and vice versa, which makes a whole messiness of the sentences. They can be used to express purpose, consequence, and condition. So we have three main functions of causal effect relationships. Okay, so here the three functions examples. So here we have so that, because, only if, otherwise, and we have additional words and phrases that can be used to express each of those functions. Okay. Expressing sequencing. If I have a list of events or ideas that goes from 1 to, let's say, 3, 4. Here, I'm using the words or the right transition words that indicate sequencing, whether it's in order or which events occurred, like chronologically, for example, or the order you are presenting them in your text. Okay, so for example, if you are telling a story, if you are telling a process, okay, you are going to use those sequencing words. So we have 6 functions here. We have listing, like first, second, third, initiation, to begin with, okay, if there's a list or let's say a process, continuation, like for example, subsequently. So something happened, but there is another thing that is less, okay, that has a less, let's say, effect. Okay, so a process might have 2 major or 3 major steps, and part of one of those steps, okay, we use subsequently. Okay, conclusion, we have finally, reopening, to return to something. Okay, so we are referring to something, to a previous step, for example. And finally, we have a summary, in summary. Okay, and these are some further examples that you can refer to. All right, so here are some common mistakes, okay, with transition words. We do make mistakes. I do make mistakes most of the time. So I had to go back and check and edit, revise, and make sure that what I wrote exactly conveys my specific idea. Okay. So here, the first thing, transition words are often used incorrectly. We have to understand the proper usage of transition words and phrases, and you can refer back to those tables that you just seen, okay, to make sure which function are you trying to use. Remember that the words with similar meanings do not necessarily work the same way grammatically. Like when you use due to instead of because, it's the same function, but grammatically, okay, syntactically, it's not working. Okay, you have to adapt or change the wording of your sentences to make it fit. Okay, misused transitions word or misused transition words can make your writing unclear, as I have mentioned. Many students are making these mistakes. They are just using linking words. They think that, okay, I can connect those sentences using this one. But when we read their writing of the sentences, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't really make sense. So before you start connecting your ideas together, try to make sure that you are using the appropriate, meaningfully and grammatically linking word. Okay. Misused transition words can make your writing unclear, and finally, misrepresenting the connections between your sentences and ideas can make your readers easily lost. And I am truly sure you don't want your teachers to be lost while they are grading your writings. Okay, let's look at one of them, which is sentence fragments. Sentence fragments are broken sentences that do not uh, convey the full meaning of the sentence. Okay, it's a broken one. So words like although and because introduce clauses that cannot stand on their own. Okay, so in this case, we have to add an independent clause, okay, to make a meaningful sentence. A clause introduced by one of these words should always follow or be followed by another clause, in this case, an independent clause in the same sentence. Okay, otherwise it will be a fragment. تكون جملة مكسورة. Okay, and versus as well as. Some students might mix between both. Okay, they are not 100% the same. Okay, in function, they have a slight difference. So using the phrase as well as in place of and has a slight difference in meaning. We are talking in meaning here, okay? And suggests equal importance, but as well as suggests less importance of the additional information. So when I'm adding an information with and, it means that the information is very important or as important as the previous one, but as well as has a very less importance. So here is an example. So chapter 1 discusses some background information about the causes of global warming, comma, as well as presenting my analysis of its major effects. So when we look at this sentence, okay, as readers, we would think that this part is less important than the previous part, because we already know that as well as presents less important information. But when we logically look at this part, we think that it's very important. It's not less than this one. The background information, we already all know the background information, but presenting analysis must have either the same equal as the background information or more importance. Okay, so the analysis is more important than the background, as we mentioned. So we have to use and or change the order of the sentence to place the most important information first. Like, for example, chapter 1 discusses some background information about the causes of global warming and presents my analysis of its major effects. So I used and instead of as well as. In fixed phrases like both X and Y, both things, both 1 and 2, you must use and, not as well as. How? For example, both my results as well as my interpretations are presented below. Both my results and my interpretations are presented below. So what do you think? We used and here, or as well as, we used as well as, both my results as well as my interpretations are presented below, which means that the results are more important than the interpretations. This is what I understand. Okay, but if I say both my results and my interpretations are presented below, okay, it's much more meaningful. It makes sense. It's something logical. So we have to use and every time we use both in our sentences. Okay, using and or. Sometimes you might see writers who use and or like this, okay, splitting them with a slash in their writing, but it's not recommended in academic writing. It's used to be something going on in old-fashioned writing, but modern academic writers recommend to remove them. Okay, so it makes your text look messy, and it is usually unnecessary to your meaning. If you are certain that you need both, then separate them. إذا كان كلا الشيئين مهم وتبغى تذكرها, put them separately. This is the wrong one. Participants were asked whether they use the bus and or the train. So I don't understand the writer here. Is he trying to tell me that I'm going to use the bus and the train, or just the train, or both of them? So there are three options here. There are three possibilities, which makes the reader, okay, out of his mind. Instead, participants were asked whether they use the bus, the train, or both. So here it's much more clear. The bus, the train, or do you need both? So now I understand that he wants to tell me that either they want to use the bus or the train or both of them. But in this case, I don't know what does he want to say. Okay. Let's look at this activity. Fill in the blanks with the correct transition words or phrase. So number one, the team haven't been playing too well. They are expected to win this afternoon. So I have four options here. Number two, blank, in nearly every country in the world, they drive on the right. In England, they insist on driving on the left. We have four options. So one blank in each sentence. Write the number. Is it 1 or 2? Okay. For example, number 1 with the answer, number 2 with the answer. Don't just write number 1, 1, 1. I don't know what you are referring to here. So number 1, 1 for example, 2, 3. Number 2, 1, 2, 3. Yes. So you agree that nevertheless is the right one for the first question. Okay. It's not nevertheless, it's in contrast. Why? If we go back to that table, it will tell us exactly or specifically what this sentence is all about. So the team haven't been playing too well. In contrast, they are expected to win this afternoon. All these four words, okay, represent a contrasting idea, or is used to introduce a contrasting idea. But when we look specifically at the meaning, okay, so let's go back to the table. Oops. Let me go back to the table and show you the contrasting ideas. Okay. Yeah. So you said nevertheless. Nevertheless here it expresses concession. Okay. We can use even so, even though, on the other hand, despite, notwithstanding, in spite of, regardless, although. But the right answer is in contrast. Where is in contrast here? It's at the beginning, the first list. Disagreement. I disagree. Okay, I just disagree. Okay. So, for example, the novel does deal with the theme of family. However, its central theme is more broadly political. So this is a disagreement, an introduction of a disagreement. While Possession, Jones 2011 argues that the novel reflects Russian politics of the time. Although this is correct, okay, other aspects of the text must also be considered. So we cannot say however, or even though, conversely, or on the other hand. Okay. Let's move back to our questions. Where am I going now? We are toward the end, so these are the last activities. So here we said in contrast. What about the second one? What did you put? Question 2, while. Okay. Most of you said while. So while in nearly every country in the world they drive on the right, in England they insist on driving on the left. I cannot say on the other hand. I cannot say nevertheless as a conjunctive adverb because there is no comma. Okay. I cannot say in contrast. So the only one is while. Okay. As a subordinate conjunction. We don't use comma with while. Very good. The second, to the north, which will remain warm and sunny. The south will become cloudy during the early morning. So what is the right one? On the contrary, in contrast, although, or while. 3. Although. 1. On the contrary. Make sure to check if there is a comma or not. So here in this case I have no comma. So number 2, in contrast. I cannot say in contrast to the north. I have to put a comma here. Okay, this is a whole phrase that comes together. I cannot say in contrast, comma, to the north. Even on the contrary, it should have a comma, صح? I think you should put a comma. Maybe I missed putting the comma here. I cannot use while to the north. Nope. I cannot use although. Okay, so being kept with the first or the second. So the answer is number 1. On the contrary. On the contrary to the north. On the contrary to the north. Okay, there is no comma here. On the contrary to the north, which will remain warm and sunny, the south will become cloudy during the early morning. Okay. Number 4. He couldn't get the machine to work following the instructions carefully. Despite following the instructions carefully. Yep. Excellent. Not yet, Yarin. Yet cannot be used here. He couldn't get the machine to work yet? No. Okay, yet should be preceded with a comma here. There is no comma. Despite following the instructions carefully. Despite. Yep. Riyadh. Excellent. Number 5, I'm not tired at all. I'm feeling full of energy. I'm not tired at all. I'm feeling full of energy. So I have on the contrary, however, in contrast, despite. This is a full stop, okay? This is a complete sentence. This is the second part. There's a comma here. All of them introduces a contrasting idea, but specifically, you have to study the table first in order to be able to answer those questions, okay, correctly. So number one, all of you said number one, some of you said two. So the answer is number one. Yep. On the contrary, I'm feeling full of energy. I'm not tired at all. I'm feeling full of energy. لازم تعرف العلاقة بين الجملتين. You have to understand the relationship. Okay? So contrasting ideas. Oh, I already answered this one. The computer had recently been repaired. It still kept crashing. Although here is the right answer. Although the computer had recently been repaired, I just repaired it, but it still kept crashing. So the problem wasn't solved. I cannot use whereas. Whereas introduces equal. Yeah, in spite of or despite of is the same. Nevertheless, I cannot use nevertheless as we have only nevertheless the computer. No, it doesn't fit. The only word that fits is although. I can say despite that my computer or the computer had recently been repaired, it still kept crashing. Despite that. Okay? So sometimes I have to change the word or the words of the sentence. Any questions? In number 5, we have the opposite idea. Yeah? Where is it? Exactly, it's an opposite idea. Yep. An opposite idea, not just a contrast. Exactly. I agree with you, Riyadh. So guys, any questions? I hope that I have explained those sentence types and that you are now able to understand the differences between those 4 types, and you will be in a good position, okay, to do better in your writing. And please don't forget to fill in those links so you can get your certificate. And also, inshallah, hopefully, Brother Kamal will upload the workshop presentation on YouTube. Okay, so you can access it anytime you like. And if you go to the YouTube, you will find lots of workshops that you might be interested in. Okay. Thank you so much. If you
Wonderful
don't
job,
have
brother
any
Yahya, as
questions,
usual. MashaAllah, as always, very, very wonderful
alhamdulillah, I finished
presentation.
on time.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah, yes.
We are done
Inshallah,
on time.
must be
Sharp.
rewarded for that.
Thank you so much,
MashaAllah.
Brother Kamal. I
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
again, Mr. Yahya, and thank you all participants for your excellent interaction and participation.
Yeah,
Next week,
thanks.
inshallah, we'll have another workshop by Mr. Mustafa Mayer. It's going to be about writing with flow, another very important workshop. Before you leave, please, if you are interested in getting your certificate, please make sure that you fill in the workshop evaluation form correctly with a valid email, please. Inshallah, directly you'll get the certificate after you finish and make sure that you submit the form. You'll get
Exactly.
the certificate directly nowadays, inshallah. Thank you again.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your interaction and for your participation.
And
I
ladies,
really appreciate that.
not only gentlemen, and ladies, Brother Yahya.
Ladies and gentlemen, yeah. Thank you so much for your cooperation and see you, inshallah, in the coming workshops.
Brother Yahya, can you stop the recording? I can't
Yep,
see
I will do it.
the
I will
bottom
do
now.
it.